Wade is guarding Bryant. Artest looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Banks it in! He banks in the three! And the Lakers win the game!
What is up, winners of Wednesday? Thanks for tuning in. That's right. It is Wednesday. We are live. It's 9 a.m. We're right here in Austin, Texas at Syndicate headquarters. My name is Tony Merwin. That is the Jolly Ginger Giant himself, the king of Facebook groups, the king of trucking insurance, Mr. Joe Frazier Campert. And as always, we are here for you for winning on Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in.
I like the Tower of Power. Last week. That one was better than the Jolly Ginger Giant, but I'll take it either way. Good morning, everybody. Happy winning on Wednesday. Hope y'all are having an amazing start to your week. It is the peak of the week, right? So let's keep the pedal down. Let's really just keep cruising through the week, right? And keep pursuing those goals. So I'm super excited to hop on this show with y'all this morning. We've got an amazing guest, and honestly, a new partner of the Syndicate. You guys saw a couple weeks ago that we brought on Mr. David Williams, who is one of the new partners as well, that'll be joining us here within Syndicate Media. We're very excited to have them here with us, and just all the things that are going to roll out for the Insurance Syndicate members. We're very excited for that. So we'll get into that here shortly. But you guys always know, and drop it in the comments here. I'm toggling in between Facebook and StreamYard just so I can see it. Good morning, everybody. Hey, Grace. Good morning, as always. Hi, Lily. Appreciate you. But before we get into that, Mr. Merwin, what's your weekly win?
Dude, weekly win's an easy one, man. We're coming off the seven-figure Medicare Agent Summit out in Savannah, Georgia. It was a phenomenal event. So we got to go out there and have a lot of fun for one. But all in all, it was a great event. And I got to get on stage and do a keynote. I gave a keynote about having vision in your business, vision in your life. Used Grace's story, immigrating from Colombia over to the U.S. and following her dreams as kind of the story example. And then I tied in some lessons for it. But all in all, dude, great event. And you already know I love events. And this was a slamming event. And I'm excited to see that Christian is doing it again because he said this was going to be his last time. But then he said, no, we can't stop. We got to keep this event going.
Run it back.
He's running it back next year, back in Salt Lake City, the home of the Summit event. But I mean, just a value-packed event. Like everybody that got on stage brought value content. Nobody was trying to sell you anything. Nobody was trying to recruit you for anything, at least not from main stage. I mean, certainly if you go talk to the sponsors, they're there to try to sell their wares to you, obviously. And as usual, Reminder Media was there cranking out magazines, for an example. It's always good to bump
Shout
into
out to
those
Andrew,
guys,
by the way, dude. That dude,
a road warrior, man.
Insane.
He hits every event that I went to 26 events in 2022 and 2023, halfway through each year. And that dude was at every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was a road warrior. And this dude's like, no, I'm showing up everywhere you go and then some.
Yep.
So, yeah, kudos to you, Andrew. You are the road warrior.
Well, kudos to you on that as well. You know, I know that we talked about it during the Monday meeting, but also getting feedback from other people that Merwin absolutely slayed from freaking stage. So shout out to you.
It was a good message and it was really well received. Right. Audience was great. We had a phenomenal group of people there. And that's one of the reasons I like that event. Christian's built such a beautiful community, high value, high integrity group of people. And so I mean, the message was really well received. They loved it. And I got a lot of great comments from it. So thank you guys for everybody that was there for joining in and having fun with us.
Absolutely, dude. Well, you talked about sponsors real quick there before I get into my weekly win. Shout out to our main sponsor of winning on Wednesday, Viva Virtual Solutions. Shout out to Lily. You guys see her in the comments, and thank you just so much for everything that you do behind the scenes when it comes to editing, publishing, managing our channels, our memberships, all that good stuff. So shout out to Lily and shout out to Viva and Rob Lopez, man. We appreciate y'all. And again, you guys know I shout them out every week for a reason, but I use them within our organization and they're a game changer. So if you guys are looking for anything on the VA side, definitely reach out to Viva.
Speaking of Viva, I had a conversation with Rob Lopez Monday morning, and we have a follow-up conversation possibly tomorrow, depending on how his schedule is running, because he's traveling. He's in El Salvador at Viva at one of his headquarters. And him and I had a conversation about collaborating to expand his offices in Colombia.
Oh,
so we have some follow-up calls on that, and obviously he's got the PNC side of it covered. He knows how to build these offices in these different countries to bring opportunity to them. So he kind of has that part laid down, and then the key is for me to come in and help build out the life and health side for him.
Sick, dude.
So
that's pretty sick.
Looking forward to some of those follow-up conversations, and hopefully, who knows, we might have a VA office in Barranquilla, Colombia soon enough.
I like that, dude. That's sick. Well, shout out to Rob, man. Man, my weekly win, man, I got a lot of them. You saw.
Can only have one, dude.
I know, man. But it's like, gosh, I've had agents in office since last Sunday. I think it was last Sunday. Sudas, and then obviously Sean plays in town here today. He's actually out of here today, but last week was just amazing. And to you guys know, a lot of my heart and a lot of my passion is to coach and train and give back to agents and agencies. And so these are John and Jessica Suda are two of our newer agencies out of Wichita, Kansas, and they actually drove down, got stuck in a hailstorm. Oh, and you should have heard the story on the way back, man. Somebody got into a wreck. Dude climbed through his windshield. John's a cop, so anybody that doesn't know. So John had to get out, and I'm like, dude, y'all can't get on the road anywhere. But it goes to show, man, hey, they're willing to invest in themselves and drive through a crazy freaking hailstorm and drive hours from Wichita, Kansas to Austin, Texas to spend a week. And we were working days and we were getting after it, shooting a bunch of content, training, getting on the phones, learning new scripts, new products, all that good stuff. And there's one thing for you to do it yourself, but man, there's one thing to kind of give and see that just that gratitude behind like seeing other people freaking win, right? We're talking about winning on Wednesday. That's one of my best and favorite wins is when you see other people win around you and just that environment and the energy and the culture and the relationship that is really instilled from that. Dude, it's just been an amazing past week. And then my other one it was almost 4 hours yesterday at the Progressive Roundtable meeting here. And it's basically meeting with, some of the top, if not the top, progressive Texas agents. And so just going through products and just seeing the numbers that, hey, for everybody, again, this is more on the property and casualty side, the industry's starting to bounce back a little bit. Not everybody by any means, but there are quite a few people that are in the profitability space. And so we should start seeing, I know you guys, we've talked about it a lot in the hard market, but that was a win for sure to see, hey, man, come quarter three, quarter four. I mean, we may be having some markets really open back up across the country. So that was positive to see, because if Texas is opening up, for the most part, most of y'all are going to open up too, depending on your state. Okay. So yeah, that's my weekly win. It's been an amazing, 10 days or whatever, just nonstop. But it's been awesome. So without further ado, y'all, I have the pleasure of bringing on our special guest. I'm like I said earlier, very excited to have him on. Anytime I've ever been on a call with a guy, especially when back in the day when we were doing business together on the CRM side of things, it's just mind-blowing how this dude's brain works and how he can really build businesses and the infrastructure and everything that it really takes to run something efficiently. So I'm very excited to bring it on. Give us a nice little hand clap in the comments for my good friend, Mr. Tom Bianco. What's going on, brother?
What's going on, guys? How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Man, we're doing fantastic. It is great to have you. Where are you located out there?
Pittsburgh, PA. Born and raised.
PA. Okay. Beautiful. Love the backdrop in your office there. I see Together We Can in the back.
Believe, lead, and achieve.
All right. Beautiful, man. Well, thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. And we're definitely looking forward to some of the future things that we all have in store with each other that we're jumping into together. But just take a short moment, because most of these folks that are watching probably don't know who the heck Thomas Bianco is.
That's Tom's fault. That's Tom's fault.
That's how I like it, guys. So I'm really not the front guy. So I don't like being on the screen and doing all that stuff, but I love the business part of it and grooming teams, training. I've been doing it since I've been 16 years old, just turned 47. Started out there on the blue collar side, So working with a truck, scrapping garbage and doing all kinds of different things to make some money, and found my way into the mortgage career. Probably like back in 2003, and from 2003 to 2007 I was doing really well. And then I got my first lesson in life in 2007, 2008, and pretty much lost everything. So I left the mortgage industry kind of. I lost all of my employees and I kept doing mortgages in the house. And I got into the insurance industry, and probably the best thing that's ever happened to me. So 2008, I started with Allstate, struggled, but in Allstate's mind, I was, elite and kind of an odd situation. I wasn't making money. They were telling me I was awesome. I wrote $1 million in premium, didn't have a penny to show for it. And it took 3 years to figure it all out. And after 3 years, a mega conference, you guys talk about all these conferences and stuff like that. And, I was invited out to the mega conference for Allstate, and it changed my mind. It opened my mind. It showed me, that thinking can be so much bigger and so much more process oriented when it comes to, doing what takes place in an office on a daily basis to scale. So 3 years into it, still didn't have a positive dollar on my return, and that's when the light bulb went off. And at that time, I was running, my homegrown lead company. I was still potentially selling mortgages to try and make ends meet, and I just slinging insurance all day long, 7 days a week. Networking at night and in the morning, and anything and everything I could do to make it work. And I bought my first agency after the mega conference, and it propelled revenue that I never thought I could earn in the business. And everything just started snowballing. And then I really figured out how to lead teams, and that's where my true passion came into play. Like, I started with a company called BYL. I bounced over to Blitz. I went to Velocify, which was my first love.
Oh,
I don't know if you guys remember
Oh,
Velocify, but I was a
man.
Velocify like guru, lover. Just everything about Velocify was my favorite. And Finality, right? They had this HUD. It was this wonderful CRM. And
I haven't thought of that in a while.
oh my gosh. So as we're coming in here, I was thinking about it. It's just like, geez, those two systems were like the core until, I met Bo over at Ricochet, and I tore out the engine and rebuilt the foundation, and, started working with Ricochet. And over the course of, the last 7 years, he and I have been working really well together. 4 years ago, I started selling my insurance agencies. Like I mentioned, from that 3-year mark to the 10-year mark in the Allstate world, I achieved 25 million in premium. I did that very, very quickly, all on the back of a wonderful team, which now owns all of it. Because over the course of 3 years, Allstate made me sell it in small little segments of 3 million to 5 million. So I sold it all off over 3 years and rebuilt it all over again in 3 years, right? So now we're sitting on the independent side. I've got some really, really great partnerships, and we maxed out, the PNC side in my mind right now. So like we're just kind of sitting in a place where appointments are getting very difficult to write in, especially if you're not domiciled in the state that you're writing, right? So it's become pretty difficult. So we're on a freeze, but the insurance industry is my baby, right? Like, I love it. I love training people. I love every component of it. So I do tons of consulting with folks, but when I sit down and think about what got me here, where I'm at right now, and I'd have to say, it's all the above. My partnerships are like the key. And I think, my team, when I sit down and look at it, like, I have a core that started with me 20 years ago that still exists, and 10 years and 5 years, and they all own agencies and consult with me and work with my lead company and do all kinds of different things. So, I'm just blessed and grateful that you guys, brought us on this side, and, Ricochet is doing what it's doing on that side, and just all of the above, guys.
Absolutely, man. Well, you said something at the very beginning that I think I heard, and I want to make sure I heard it correctly. I believe you said something about garbage trucks.
So I don't know if anybody knows what a pallet is, but I remember my first deck that I did a presentation at Mega Conference, and I showed what I did in the past. And I had a pickup truck, and I drove around the back of buildings, and I took garbage, right? So the old pallets that were in the back, I'd refurbish them and then sell them. And I did that for many, many years. And that's how I made all my money. And in that process, I met a mortgage broker that had been burnt out, and he introduced me to mortgages. And 6 months into the mortgage game, I ended up owning a mortgage company, because the employer of the mortgage company I was working for asked me to partner. And again, you'll see, like in a lot of the things I do, I have a lot of really strong partnerships, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm a big believer, in the partnership game. And if you write or if you work with the right people, great things come from it, because you can't do it all yourself. And, so I have 25 different businesses. I have 25 great partners. This is going to be my 26th, relationship here. Like, and it's just exciting to watch, my big win. Like if I sit down and look at like the wins and, Joe, I think you said it, there's a ton of them, but like watching the team do what they're doing every day and write what they're writing and solving the problems that they're solving, like that's what I love, because I like seeing that kind of reward for them. But more importantly, like it's like, wow, like I don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. So like they're doing it and I don't have to worry about it. So now I can go do this and, feel good and comfortable and not like there's a monkey on my back. Because that was the thing that haunted me every day, is like I can't get away from this thing that's just constantly on my back telling me it's going to all fall apart. There's not going to be a paycheck tomorrow.
So you said something. It's funny. Well, exactly referencing that, you said something that I kind of wanted to dig a little deeper on, because I think it's something that we see a lot in this industry where people are putting in the work, not necessarily seeing the reward, right? And so you said when I first started with Allstate, man, it's like I wasn't even really making money, but in the eyes of Allstate or the industry, right, I'm elite and I'm hitting my numbers and whatever that looked like back then. I'm sure it's different now. Talk about like, what was that like kind of struggle or that mentality behind it? Because again, I think a lot of agents have it where they're just not seeing the reward yet. And the sad part is, though, they didn't go to a mega conference that changed their career, right? And they didn't stick around for 3 years in this industry to potentially have that total switch, right? And I think, in our industry, it is not you're not going to see money first freaking night. Well, some of you life insurance guys do. That's about it, right? That's the only people I know that make quick money like that sometimes in their first week. But specifically on the property and casualty side, I mean, this is the residual play. We're building up. What was that? How was it really truly a struggle for you? Or I guess, what was that mindset of, man, they're telling me I'm doing good, but I'm just not seeing the results quite yet? Like, how do you work through that?
I mean, working through it and, understanding it, I think were the correlations that needed to happen. Like my expectation was, I was this elite, like I should be making all of this money, but I didn't understand the mechanics of the business. And it's a little different now because you see some of these new contracts with Allstate and Farmers and, even some of these enhanced contracts with on the IA side that are coming out. Like you can make money in the same month. And when I started, it took 2.5 years before my profit kicked. Right. And that's why I said, like, it was the third tax return that I actually seen a positive taxable gain. So, and then bridging that, because, you got Allstate sending you on trips and you got all of these awesome things happening, but you can't afford to do anything but put it on a credit card while you were traveling. Because that was my life. I lived waiting for the bonus to pay out. Right. Like, so, understanding, I think, in almost every business that I've ever started, there's a 3-year turn is what I see consistently. Like it takes 2 years to establish the business. And if it's got renewals built into it in some aspect or another, it's the third year that I see the profits start to kick in. So, can I sit through those 2 years and, survive? This is pretty much how I look at it. Like I had to survive for 2 years. And then the third year, it started to make sense. So now, we're able to do that a lot faster, right? Because I learned a lot of lessons on how to be more profitable, how to use a better infrastructure, how to contact people quicker. There's a million things that have been learned over the last 10 years. And, so that can be sped up with the right mentorship.
Agreed. Do you have something on that?
I was going to say he's spot on, because that's exactly been my experience with the Vila. Like first year we lost money, second year we lost money, third year had to pay some taxes. Because we made
That's a wonderful. My grandfather, before he passed, he told me, he's like, if you're paying taxes, you're making it.
Absolutely.
I hate taxes, and I do everything in my power to learn how to pay as little as humanly possible. And I invest a lot of energy into creating as few tax burdens as I can. But like at the end of the day, like that's the ticket. Like
Yep.
Right there.
You said something, so I kind of want to pivot to this. And again, I've seen you groom and build these teams. I know quite a few of them. Shout out to Brett, because that's my boy. That's the OG Brett Schickler, man. I'll tell you, we got to get him on a call. And guys, he'll close all of you guys on the podcast live. I'm telling you, like, he is that freaking sharp. But he's like literally the best dude of all time. But I want to take some time for people that are potentially either already sitting in that leadership role or are getting ready to, man, you know what? I'm kind of trying to bring on my first, agent or two. What is most important when it comes to that, those initial, let's just say those first 3 months when it comes to building a team, right? Grooming somebody to find success within this industry. What does that look like for you? Whether that's a timeline, whether that's systems, and be as specific as you want. Cause I want it to kind of like people be like, oh shit, I'm going to go take this and implement it right now. Like, what would you say, maybe 3 to 4 things that are like, man, you need to be doing this with your people to build the strong culture, all that good stuff?
I think it's a double-edged sword, right? I think that there are different situations for different people. Some people come into this business and don't need an immediate paycheck, and my answer would be completely different, right? So, example, like my daughter opened up her first all-state agency. I'm super excited for her. But
Congrats.
the goal was to help teach her the mindset of letting other people do it and actually be an entrepreneur in the business instead of an insurance agent. So it's a very different mentality than what I've talked and coached and worked with other agents. And to watch her hire a manager and not take a paycheck and allow that manager to run that business and make decisions as an owner is just amazing, right? And I think you have to look at them from that perspective. She didn't need the money, right? She has a good career. She's doing really well for herself. So that person that comes in can afford to hire someone that they should call their partner in some aspect or another, right? Because I'm a big believer in these partnerships in, many different contractual ways. So, and I think if you go in with that mindset, you can look at it and say, over the course of a 3-year period, she can vest. She can, build an entire team based on the margins, as big as she wants or as small as she wants, but it's her opportunity as the key person to make those decisions. So, and then you have the other side, right? Where you got to just try and bring people into the organization. And, I think it's one of those situations where for me, when I was doing it, and if I sit back and look at it, what I've done faster would replace everything that I hated and that I didn't do well as fast as I could affordably, right? Because if I have to pay myself X, then, I can only do so much. But in my situation, I was able to go 3 years without taking a paycheck because I created other revenue streams to compensate for the lack of business coming in and renewals to pay me until that kicked, right? And it's amazing. Like once you get to that spot, it's like, wow.
This is why I'm doing this.
And it's like, and I tell all of my, people that I work with that like you just got to sit through the 3, and then the great one is when that loan's paid off. If you bought something and that loan is gone, like and that's when it all happened for me, right? Like we sold some agencies, I had no more loan debt, I had all this revenue coming in, and then I just started investing, right? So built the real estate portfolio, we created Jarvie, we launched a telemarketing and recruiting company. Like we just did a lot of things that solve a lot of problems for us on a daily basis. And coincidentally, they help solve a lot of problems for other people as well. So, and, I love solving problems.
Yeah. So go ahead, Tony.
Solving problems is the nature of this entire business. And I've said it before and I've heard it said before, but basically your income is specifically or directly tied to the size and frequency of problems that you can solve. So
100%.
So let's go to, how did you build a $25 million agency in 3 years after you restarted and never been on the independent side? And I want to hear like I'm surprised I was thinking you're going to say, hey, they need to have leads, right? I like the approach that you took on it. But coming from the quote nerd, right? So talk about like, what are the fundamental pieces that an agency needs if they're wanting to grow and scale?
I mean, I think it's a combination of recruiting, right? So we had to have a bench at all times. I had already developed, and I think this is really important. I had already developed, my core. And I think that's what makes all of my businesses run like they do. Because a lot of people will sit down and be like, Tom, like, how do you do it? Like, how can you manage over 200 people and have a life, right? So, and it's very simple. Like, I don't. Like I have amazing people that do it for me, but the core, was broken up into the service, because I have to stress, like, the amount of education on this side, on the independent side, is 10x what it is on the Allstate side. So like it just takes a lot more time to groom a person. So it hurts a lot more when you lose them. So, and
True.
so we constantly are working on our training components and our service, because retaining is important. And we had our sales division, you know what I mean? And we learned the hard way that, some of the lead processes that we ran in the exclusive side just don't work over here, and the results aren't like I thought they were going to be. Like I thought I was going to get like a 75% close rate on property and casualty leads, and like this was just going to be 10 times easier to do, and it just wasn't the case. So I think the reason we were able to scale so fast is we were able to build a team faster than we were ever able to build a team before. So we can write $1 million in premium on a monthly basis, and we can retain premium almost at the same rate. Now that's conditional, I think, because of the current state of affairs with all the rate increases and stuff like that. And that's probably going to change. But I think those combinations are what got us into a place where we were able to just keep putting up month after month, that number. So, and, here we are. But I will tell you, the first year we were using our click to call campaign that worked very, very well on the insurance side for Allstate. And when we plugged it in here, our retention.
What do you think? What do you think that was? Curious. I know you're a data guy, so you had to have been crunching them numbers trying to figure it out.
I still think it comes down to filtering, right? Like I'm a big believer that the filter is what, makes the lead. And I think the better the filter is, the better the long-term results. And I'm a big long-term player. Like I don't sell anything. Like I haven't sold, any houses that I've ever bought in my life. The only thing I've ever sold is the Allstate agencies, and it's because I had bigger plans with some of these other companies. But like at the end of the day, like I sit down and I look at like what is the difference on a click to call. It's very difficult for you to filter out like the bundle features, the homeowner, the 12 months continuous coverage, the things that, what I didn't expect on the independent side to be important on the personal lines was those, right? Like I just thought we were going to write everything and it was just going to be super easy, and it's just not.
Yeah.
Very much different. You just have to learn 10 different systems or 15 different systems,
right?
And all the nuances, right?
And I mean, for me, that was when I come from Allstate World too. That's how we first even met. And coming over to the independent side, I remember and to your point, this is why I love giving back, because I didn't have a Joe back then. I remember Safeco giving us our first direct appointment, and I'm over here thinking, okay, I'm about to go through Allstate University, binding authority. Like I'm gonna be really proficient at selling. And he's like, best of luck. And I'm like, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing here, man. And we just had to figure it out. But what I really love that you said on that is you want to do it all at once. And I remember coming over to the independent side and was like, man, if it can be insured, I'm your guy. That was literally my slogan. Horrible slogan to have. And I always tell the story of I had this Nerf gun arena that hit my desk, and I had this mobile exposure, right? And I'm independent now, and I've got these E&S markets. I don't even know what E&S stands for, I think, at this point, but I just know I've got them. And I'm like, I can do this, right? I know Allstate obviously ain't going to touch it with a 10-foot pole, but I can do this as an independent. 45 days later, 30 pages of supplemental forms in a court apps, and then it had to get double brokered out because of the risk, because of it going to kids' birthday parties, even though it was Nerf gun, right? 45 days later, $1,200 rip or $1,200 premium, 9-point rip. And it was a premium finance manual renewal policy every single year. And I'm like, I did not just freaking do this, right? And spend this much time for like $90 in commission. But that's what I learned, is that coming over was, hey, let me just get really good in this one space, right? Or if I'm going to tackle commercial insurance, I'm going to just do auto body shops, real estate investors, and trucking. And that's it, right? And I think, you're talking about filters. Sometimes the filter is you. I think a lot of times we have agents that will see that and they'll be like, yes, I can do it. Yes, I can do it. And then they are kicking themselves that they ever even said yes. But then you said yes. So now you want to be a person of your word, right? And you want to, come through with that. And that guy was still, he closed, was the only reason he's not on my books. But that guy, Alex Donahue, I remember his name, man, was with us for years, dude. And I manually renewed that sucker every year because I said I would. But I love that you said that. And I think that is, you're in this space, so it kind of goes back to the shiny object syndrome, where people will just start to cease and they just start going, or truck. Again, I'm in trucking, so trucking, wait, $25,000 starting or premiums, I'm in, right? And they have no clue what they're doing, right? So talk maybe a little bit about that on your side of things from your perspective, Tom. Obviously, you've got multiple tech companies, you got the recruiting. I mean, you have some of the shiny objects, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess what would be your encouragement to agents that are, I guess, experiencing some of those shiny objects? Like, how do you, because sometimes shiny objects can also change your entire agency and your business. Like Jarvie is considered maybe a shiny object for me. It's not that I necessarily needed it, but man, it's going to freaking change everything for us, right? What would be your encouragement, your insights, your advice for somebody maybe that's going through this and seeing all these things out there?
I mean, I think I preach to a lot of the people that I work with that you have to stay focused on the core, right? And in a lot of businesses, it's just sales, So, but I'm not in that position, so I don't want people to compare because that's sometimes what happens. I have a huge bench of very, very qualified individuals that, run businesses, not work in them. They run the business, right? So, and what my job and what my passion is to come in and help them figure out how to run it very efficiently, very quickly. And then once I've done that, I'm replaced, right? I have no need in that business anymore. And that's how I can transition. And all that I have done is aligned myself with people like yourselves and Dave Williams and Bo Brattons and all of these really, really smart guys that like to solve really big problems, right? So like Jarvie was a really big problem. Like our training was super repetitive. Like we meet every day and large groups of people and we train on the same things every single day. And then we don't know what they're actually, taking in and what they're not taking in. So Jarvie was created. And now we have a way to keep everybody accountable to what they actually inhale and understand and then can regurgitate and sell with. So like the training component was wonderful. And then the other part was like, hey, recruiting. People can't afford, all the time to be paying $3,000 for a hire. So like, how can we, ourselves pay less? Because, I'm kind of a selfish guy when you sit down and think about it. And everything that we do is used internally for us, right? Like I built it to solve my problem. And then coincidentally, it usually solves a lot of other people's problems. Ricochet is another perfect example, right? So, and then the recruiting comes out of it. And like, we can recruit for very, very inexpensive. And when I consider it inexpensive, how much time does it take, right? Like we can do it fast and we can do it efficient. And, we can grade a lot of people for you without you even picking a finger up. So, that's exciting to me. And then we put a rock star like Olivia is running that company. And I mean, I don't know if you've met her, but she ran Team Hired and put it on the stage, and we got contracts with Allstate and all kinds of different companies. And like now she has moved over to Jarvie and she's heading up doing that while someone that she trained to take her role took her role. So we just keep repeating, right? So like it's the shiny object is what's the big problem that we're experiencing, and we all sit down in a room and say, this is what it is. We build something to take the pain away, and once we prove that the pain goes away and there's a margin inside it so that people can experience what we're experiencing, we roll it out.
Yep. I love that, dude. It's fun. It's funny that you say that because and I'm sure Tony's seeing this on his side of things. I think some people will just create a shiny object, right? They'll create a solution, but it doesn't act like think about the problem. Like, what is it going to solve first before you throw it out there, right? Because then it's like, dude, this is just like everything else, and it doesn't really do anything for me. And I wrote like work backwards. Like, what is the actual problem, right? And going back to obviously what Tony said, right? It's your income is directly tied to the frequency and the size of the problems that you solve.
You got to think about the end user. You got to think about the guy that's using the shovel, right?
Yeah, your employees are the most important part.
Person. And build it backwards. Right. Steve Jobs said it was like you always have to think about the end user. You don't build a product and then shove it on the user. Like here, use this; it'll solve all your problems. Now you think about the user, the problems they're experiencing, and then you build, just like Joe said, you build it backwards. Now here's the device that meets all the problems and demands that you were asking for.
Yep. Tom, I want to ask you this, and I know obviously, so you probably have somebody running these numbers and everything for you, but I still know you're a number dude, so there's no way that you're not looking at them. I know you. let's just say for a salesperson, right, that is a part of your team, what systems are they using? Like, I want to know, like, what's their systems and what's their day look like? Like, if you could break down, like, how your people are finding success, like, and I want to hear like specific systems. Obviously, I know some of them are yours, so definitely highlight those, because I just want agents to be able to know, or just kind of hear a day of the life, right? If that makes sense.
So on the insurance side, we do, just so that everybody's clear, we do personal lines only. So we don't write, like, our book is probably 99% personal lines.
Really?
So like we didn't get the shiny object syndrome when it comes to what we're doing in the business, right? We didn't mess with life insurance. Now, could we? Potentially. Commercial, huge opportunity. We just, quite honestly, haven't gone that direction. But Ricochet is the foundation for us. We put everybody into the platform because we have technology that's built into it that makes contact at a higher rate and a faster speed. So, we have features that are built in Spam Guru Pro that literally increases the contact rate that a normal phone system would see by 30%. And that's, I think, one of the competitive advantages a lot of them get, because in our organization, it's, low return on investment, I guess, per item sold, right? Our average premium is probably sitting around $3,000. So we have like a $300 to $400, return on investment there. And we have to sell thousands of them, right? So there's lots of phone calls being made, and there's lots of communication back and forth that take place. So, we're using Jarvie to train and prepare people for these conversations and deal with objections. And that was all done live, quite honestly. And I'm relieved that I don't have to be the guy that sits on a call every day, because that was one of the things that I really do love. I love watching the employee or the manager or the owner just get it, right? I love watching their paycheck expand. I love every part of that more than I like the money, but I do love the money, right? But it's that part that, gets me really excited. And so the Jarvie system came into play there, because we can put people in the seats faster, and we can make them accountable, to the processes quicker. So, our compliance is cleaner now because, we have systems in place that control it. Our quality of people that are sitting in the seats has gone up dramatically, because we don't even waste our time anymore looking at 70% of the people that come through the funnel, because it's controlled, right? Our insight score tells you immediately this person makes sense to spend time looking at. And then if you like them, it automatically schedules them so that you can do one of these meetings face to face and decide if you're going to put them in a chair or going to let them work remotely. So, and that's the other part of, what we've done, because I'm not sure about you, but, I don't like the remote world, but we had to come into it, right? So, and 95% of our organization works remotely. So we built a virtual office that everybody comes to work every day and participates just like they're at the office, right? So we have, a receptionist that when you walk in the door, and in our virtual office, she greets every single person, and she makes whoever the customers that are coming in, whoever comes in, know where they're going, and just kind of controls the flow of everything. And then we have private offices for every single one of them. And then we have a pit, right? Because when I was at my best and we were writing, a lot of premium on a monthly basis, I had 25 people sitting in a 2,000 square foot room, right? And they learn faster. Everything happens faster, right? They're selling more faster, they're quoting more faster, their education, scales faster, everything happens faster. So we were just like, well, hey, we can't have them sitting in the office. We're going to put everybody in a room every day, and we work together. So, and we go off audio when we're selling, and when we're not and we need help, we come in there and we're asking for help. And the beautiful part about it is they can learn from each other, right? And instead of having to call helplines, they're calling each other, right? So now you got 30 different agencies plus our big one all in a room sitting there saying, I want to help you help me learn faster, right? So, and that virtual office was kind of the game changer for us in this new world, because COVID, it handed us a lot of challenges. So, to put it lightly.
Are you just doing that in Zoom? Is that how you set those rooms up?
We do.
Yep.
Yeah. So, the Zoom room can be set up so that you have breakout rooms, and we literally have it set up so that the virtual attendant sits in the room, and that's just a VA, right? So it's super inexpensive, someone that's front facing, speaks good English, and their job is to greet every single customer and every single employee and any person that's coming into our environment, because we train a lot of people because of QuoteNerds. So, you know, the lead company, what I've learned is that if you don't go into, you know, working leads with the right expectation on a daily basis, it doesn't matter how good the lead is, right? So like if you're buying leads and you're thinking that people are going to just do quotes, like you got a different thing coming. So our job is to make sure that every employee in our organization has the right expectation and the right mindset when they get on the phone. So the virtual office allows agencies from all over the country to come and train with us. And it's the experience, I think, that allows, you know, my teams to grow faster, you know, and I think that's the key, is how fast can you get a person quoting more with quality conversations. So
I like that. I like that. That's something I'm getting ready to actually, we had tried to start it up a couple months ago and I kind of let it go, but I'm bringing it back, and it's just, it's not a full virtual office like that. I really like that as far as the other people coming in to kind of see how my team does it. Right. And that's obviously training within itself. You see people. And so what we're starting up is just a dial room. I know a ton of life and health agencies that do it. I don't really know a ton of PNC folks that have like, hey, live dial sessions. Let's all hop on and just start dialing. I know quite a few people do. Obviously, you guys have something like that as well. But we use Slack. Slack has been like the game changer. Well, we were Teams, and then when we joined with Clarity and everything, then it's like they're all Google. So I had to give up my Teams. I was sad to lose my Teams and my Outlook. So now we're all Slack at Gmail. But Slack, same thing, right? Where, hey, you can, you know, you have the channels that are specific to each line of business, or, you know, even something too. I think what's really important, which we've kind of touched on it, but it's also, you know, something that I don't see a lot of people doing, is really celebrating the agent's wins. And so we have a channel in there called the Premium Tracker, where it's everybody's just dropping their wins. I don't care if it's a renter's policy or a $500,000 warehouse that we just did, right? Like, put it in the Premium Tracker because we want to be able to celebrate you. And I think there's a lot of agents out there in this industry that don't get that celebration when they hit that win, right? And then it's just kind of like, then the wins just become mundane, and then there's not really any passion or excitement behind it. And I think it's so important. And maybe, Tony, you could probably speak this a little bit. And actually, I'd be curious to hear your take on this from the wholesale days, and how you celebrate those agents' wins, even though they're not really your team, but they kind of are. But so important, especially again, y'all, if you guys have agents or team members with you, partners, like, make sure and help them. If they're not celebrating, make sure and help them celebrate it. And it goes such a far, like, way further than you would think when it comes to just, hey, even sometimes just a pat on the back or a call that, hey, dude, amazing job, amazing work today, right? Way to go. And then you see them like, come on, they come in on fire the next freaking day, right? What?
In the wholesale side, it was difficult to some extent because, number one, I'm working with agents all across the nation. They're independent agents, and carriers don't report to the wholesale person at an efficient enough rate that as soon as that guy closes that massive deal, that all of a sudden we find out about it, and I can call him and be like, man, congratulations. I usually don't find out about it, in a lot of cases, a couple of weeks, maybe a month, until I see it, my override pop up, and I'm like, holy crap, that's a really big override that I normally don't see from this guy. And then I can reach out to him, call him, and be like, hey, man, I saw that big annuity that you closed. Congratulations. You know, what was helping you with that? What can I do to help you write more of those? Whatever it might be. And then I would say the biggest part about it, or the biggest thing that was helpful in celebrating those successes, was recognizing those instances where you see a guy that's producing at a higher pace than he normally does, and then get him a nice gift, man. Get him something that's thoughtful. And that is something that I learned and got pretty good at in the wholesale side, was practicing the art of giftology and helping get someone a unique gift to let them know that I really appreciate the relationship. I appreciate their efforts, and can obviously see that they're doing very well. You know, and congratulate them on that.
I like that. Tom, I want to, you kind of started to go back exactly where I wanted to go. So I love it. Leads. So let's kind of take like the last 5-10 minutes of the show just to really kind of talk. And I think there's obviously a ton of leads out there, right? Obviously, hey, if you guys are in the property and casualty space, definitely talk with Tom and QuoteNerds. Again, I can vouch for any type of business that Tom's doing. I've done business with him on multiple occasions, and am now partnering with him. So can vouch for it. If you guys are looking for that on the property and casualty side, hit him up. But I want to talk more about we talked about the filter. So the filter is important, right? So, and I think there's also, it kind of depends on the type of lead that you're trying to get, right? Are we trying to go volume, or are we trying to go more filtered, right? Which obviously is probably going to cost a little bit more, however, whatever we want to say on that. I want to talk more on the cadence. How do you started talking about, you got to set the expectation that you're going to have to work these leads, right? And some people, again, think, man, these leads are just going to be gold, baby. And everybody's going to say yes and pick up their phone on the first call and give you all of their information and have the pictures of the driver's license and the VIN and everything ready for you. Not the freaking case.
No.
I don't work leads anymore, but I did for years. So I 100% know how to work a lead. But talk about the cadence. Like, what would you recommend when it comes to touch points, the types of touch points? Like, how do you really work an internet? We'll call it an internet lead to make that clear.
So cadence used to be the only thing that mattered, because you didn't have all these TCPA changes and the DNC changes and these new algorithms that all the telephony companies are running on your calls and your SMS traffic. So before you get into cadence, you need to make sure that your team is actually doing the right things to prevent what is costing us millions and millions of dollars, and that's that spam likely tag that shows up on someone's cell phone, or worse yet, that voicemail that pops up before it even rings 3 seconds because they're already marked as spam.
Right.
So some tips that I've learned in the game are that if you don't let the phone ring for more than 12 seconds, so you got the guy that likes to do the double tap, that thing don't work no more, stop it immediately, because the phone system carriers are tracking all of this stuff. And the second you see a pattern occurring on that phone line where, the call's lasting less than 12 seconds, or that same number is being dialed in less than 30 seconds twice, they immediately mark you spam. And then all of your work for the rest of the day and or until someone catches it is for naught. So, and what happens, what people don't understand is how many of you have ever answered a spam likely call because they keep calling and ended up talking to them, right? The intent changes dramatically. So you still get people to answer the phone, but the intent when they answer is completely different. So like if you know upfront how to predict with more certainty how to stop that from happening, you're going to win more. Another tip that we learned, because I work with telephony companies all day long, every day, is leave a voicemail. Right. So like we teach all of our people to leave a voicemail on every single call. And if there's features that you have that can allow a perfect voicemail or something like that to be left, it's going to decrease the chances of your phone number being marked spam likely or spam. So, and then that's going to allow contact to increase. And then when we get into the cadences, we try to call no more than 4 times throughout the day. I've seen and I've used the 8 calls in the first day every hour on the hour when a lead comes in. But what we're seeing is the numbers burn too fast, and then your contact is not necessarily different, but the outcome of that contact is what changes dramatically. So like what we're seeing in Ricochet, because we have some pretty cool reporting, is that contact rates still may sit at 40 or 50% in a 10-day period. But the number of people that converted from contacted interested to not interested are staggeringly different. So, and it's because of the prep inside the calls beforehand. Are you letting the phone call ring longer than 12 seconds? Are you leaving a voicemail on every call? Are you not doing double taps? Are you letting the system, if it can control these things for you, let it do the work, right? Because a lot of times what I see even inside Ricochet or other systems is the employee or the person making the phone calls wants to control a lot of it. So they override the system in these algorithms, which causes some of these problems to occur. So, over the course of a 14-day period, we run hot. We'll probably call that same person, 4 times in the first day, 2 times the second day, 4 times 2, 4, 2, and then we'll let it ice off for a little bit, because at that point, we got to pretend it's going to be a new lead, and then we'll let it sit for 2 weeks. We refresh all of our numbers, and then we start with a whole new batch of numbers and a whole new sequence, and then we go after them again for 30 days. We try not to call anybody past 60 just because of all of the TCPA nightmares that are out there when you're ripping the way we rip on, a daily basis. Because on any given day, just one of my small teams is probably making 13 to 14,000 calls a day, right?
So I guess I didn't know about the 12 seconds. That's a really good tip.
Yeah, I didn't either.
How does that work if somebody's using a dialer? Like does a dialer mess something up if you're dialing multiple lines?
So, there's a different type. The dialer is, a loaded question as well. So depending on what kind of dialer and how many channels you're opening up, is going to change.
So in mine, you can do up to 10 at once. Now I don't ever do 10 because I can tell it don't work. Like I don't know if that's just me saying something stupid, but I'm like, man, we start dialing 10 at once. It's like, we can't get anybody to pick up. So we'll go to like 3 max, but I'm curious, is that hurting our phone number? I guess we're not necessarily seeing it, or maybe we are. So what's your,
yeah. So here's what we see. Cause we have a progressive, it's a 1-to-1 dialer, right? So there's a human interaction, which makes it not necessarily classified as a dialer, which is the beautiful thing about Ricochet. But we also have predictive, and predictive is calling multiple channels simultaneously. First person to answer gets routed into, whoever's available. And, there's a drop rate that needs to be maintained, or quite honestly, your phone calls aren't going to work. Right. So, and a lot of people don't understand, like, these numbers will get spammed and contact. And this is the crazy anomaly that we didn't understand for a little bit, because at the beginning it was like, hey, we can increase your contact rate with our system. And what we seen is with the new features that we've added, like Spam Guru Pro and Spam Guru, our contact rates maybe jumped a couple percent, but what changed dramatically is the number of people that quoted and the number of people that close. Right? Because people still answer the phone and tell you to go pound salt in whatever way they want, right?
Salt.
So
worse than that.
right. So, and I think the key is if you're going to test it, I would go to a 1-to-1 and I would rip, because here's the thing. A real 1-to-1 call can make 600 calls to 700 calls in Ricochet. Right. Just one person dialing one person at a time. And if they're not doing the quoting and they're transferring, they can just send them over.
Yep.
And I think what you'll see is a very, very similar result with less data burn. And I think what people have to remember in the data game is you can only have it once. Like, once they mark you spammed, you're done, right? Like, you can't get them back if you're running on a 1-to-1 line. Whereas, like, in our system, you could have 50 numbers dialing for you, and it kind of tricks the system in some ways. So, like, you want to test that and then figure out what works for you. Because the other part that I notice is some states are, a little bit more immune to heavier frequency than other states, so you get into Texas and, you get into some of these other states, like, they're like, like, you go to New York, like, they don't even call a TCPA attorney. Like, it's just a different world, right? Like, so, you got to kind of play it out. But my experience is you'll see less data burn, and data is expensive now, and it's going to get more expensive, right? With all the new laws that are changing as fast as they're changing, and the inability to use SMS like we did in the past, like, there are going to be significant reasons why we need to protect the data more, which means lower the overcalling ratios that we were doing in the past, have warm up, processes with marketing built in. And these are all the things that we work on inside, our business on a daily basis. Is like, hey, we can't call it no more. So what's next, right? And data is gold, in my opinion, and it's what creates power.
It really is. I actually probably learned that from you, dude, when we were going through those trainings back in the day with Ricochet. And I'll tell you, my Ricochet was clean as shit, man. I was the data Nazi up in there, man. And we built out all those custom fields. And hey, you better have the state abbreviation in all caps. Like, I had 0 variances. Like, I had such clean data, man. So real quick, and then I've got a final question for you, Tom. So, guys, everybody, you've obviously heard him referencing some systems. So I just wanted to give you a quick kind of background. So Ricochet 360 CRM, right? So it is a powerhouse prospecting tool. They've got tons of amazing other features in there. The reporting off it is ridiculous. It's your phones, as you heard Tom talking, right? They've got that predictive dialer, call routing, all that good stuff built into there. Jarvie is their new, which I am currently on Jarvie. Mine is pretty much done, except for we just got some new content to put in there. But it's sick. It's got all kinds of AI built into it, but it's a really onboarding and recruiting tool, I would call it. I love it for the onboarding side because we had all the content. We just didn't have anywhere to host it. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't want to pay $25,000 to Lightspeed VT just to start, right? So Jarvee is an amazing solution to host your content, to provide prompts and responses and video responses, and it's got AI rating and rankings directly connected to Indeed. It's super sick, and I am on Jarvee, so if you guys are looking for a tool like that, definitely check that out. And then obviously QuoteNerds. You can, Tom, maybe speak a little bit more specific to QuoteNerds. Is it click to call, or what type of leads are you doing on that side of things?
So we do click to call, we do data predominantly. So, and it's really on the personal lines. We don't do anything but auto and home. So those are our niches. If you're looking for a relationship that optimizes on a weekly basis to get to the right filter. And again, I always come back to the filter, because I think depending on your business model, there's a filter that makes more sense, that's unique to your neighbor, right? Because a lot of times it has to do with your employees that change the filter to make it a successful campaign. So, we really try to focus in on going out and getting the product, which, there are different products out there. So, search traffic is by far the one that you need to find a way to filter out. And a lot of people don't understand how to get to it. And that's something that QuoteNerds does very well on the personal lines, is we can exclude all of the traffic that's a distraction, and we can generate that search traffic. And that's, just simply put, someone going to Google or somewhere and saying, I need auto insurance or I need home insurance. And that's the search traffic that has the highest conversion rate. So depending on the employee, that's operating these lead campaigns, there's different recommendations and, different training that I would recommend for every single person to do. So before they touch a lead, because I've talked to so many people that are like, hey, we've been doing it for years, but there's just little nuances, to taking a click to call with a competitor ad campaign running compared to, taking a direct mail piece, right? But they answer the phone the same way. So
and then you don't know what you don't know, right? It's always and it's the small little things. What Justin Brock is always who talked about this, right? It's the small things, it's the little things that will always add up and accumulate to something big, right?
Little things lead to big things.
Yep,
totally,
100%. Well, so before we close out here, Tom, we always kind of like to ask this question: is what is next on the horizon for Tom Bianco? You're gonna get another company. You're gonna go to 28, or what you doing? your wife is probably like,
no. So I think we are about to have some really big successes that I look forward to sharing here once contractually we're allowed to. The core, what we have built, really provides services for all of the businesses that I've ever started. I got trucking, we got home care agencies, we've got insurance agencies, we've got lead company, we've got technology platforms, and all of our problems are solved with them. And now it's just scaling them. So like our goal, over the course of the next, 2 years is literally to take every single one of them and double, right, the number that's sitting inside that revenue stream. So, and I think we have everything built and prepared to do it. And I think it really just comes down to, delivering, right? And that's all I'm focused on, is the delivery.
You just said something that caught Tony's attention.
You have a home care agency, or are you talking home health care, or are you talking cleaning service?
Yeah. So my brother 4 years ago had a stroke and kind of paralyzed on the left side of his body. And he's like my inspiration, but get a little teary-eyed. Prior to my brother having a stroke, my uncle was handicapped, and caretakers that took care of him, were ridiculously horrible. So when my brother had a stroke, I was like, this isn't going to happen to him. So we started a business to just take care of him. And in the end, I realized that the state literally provides 1 million leads, and all I got to do is provide caretakers. So, within 2 years, my brother gets the best care, but, my wife heads it up, and she's doing an amazing job with people that are sitting behind me. They've grown that to 10,000 billable hours a month in 2 years, and, state pays all of it. Right. So like, you don't have to worry about where you're getting paid. I don't have to worry about where my next patient or person that we have to take care of is going to come from. All I got to worry about is staffing. And guess what I have? I have a staffing company, right? So like, it's super easy for me to solve that problem. And that's why it was kind of like an epiphany. It was like, all the businesses, are supported by, all the marketing and, the technology, and we use it all every single day. So when someone's questioning, like, does it work? I just open up my system and like, take a look. Like, what kind of business do you need, it to run in? And let me show you an example of how it works and how we were able to scale, that business so quickly.
Yeah.
That home healthcare, is that a national thing? Is that just in Pennsylvania? Is that?
So we are literally just in Allegheny County, and we just opened up a few more counties in Pennsylvania. The goal right now, and it's my wife's baby, so like she's, I got her to retire from what she was doing, and she runs this thing herself with a couple other people. The goal is to take Pennsylvania and kind of go and see what happens from there. So I think we'll get to about 40,000 billable hours a month, over the course of the next, year and a half, and see what happens. But I'll tell you what, it's a lucrative business if you can figure out how to manage people, right?
Yeah.
And that's the key. It's just about managing people.
Managing people and partnerships.
Well said.
That's it.
Well, man, we are at the top of the hour, and I want to certainly respect your time as well as the rest of the group. All the people that are out there watching this, man, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to jump on with us and drop some nuggets and kind of bring us up to speed on who Thomas Bianco is. We really appreciate it. And for all you guys listening, man, thank you all for tuning in. As always, we're here every week. We're here every Wednesday. We do it live. That's how we do it, live from Houston, Texas. And remember, Wednesday isn't the end of the week. It's the peak of the week.
Let's go.
So hammer down, keep it going, go achieve your goals, and we'll see you next week live for Winning on Wednesday.
Do what solves problems, right? Okay. All right, y'all. Have an amazing rest of your week. We appreciate you guys. Thanks, Tom. We'll see you guys next week.
Sounds good.